It is April. That means it's officially draft season. So we wanted to bring to you some of the folks that helped build the team here in Miami. And I'm joined today by senior scout Chase Leshin. Chase, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Happy to have you back here and talk some football and talk some scouting. And I just looked it through your bio on the media website, and man, 17 years with the Miami Dolphins, and you began in the equipment room and then the ops department. I love the story of a guy that comes from the ground floor and gets into the high level positions. I just want to start by kind of having you tell us about that journey of your football journey getting to where you are today and where it started.
Yeah, shoot. Time flies.
Sure does. We have fun too, right?
Yeah, it was cool. So I worked at the University of Texas. I did equipment there. Kind of late in my career, I figured out that I didn't want to do my marketing degree. So I was able to get an internship in the equipment room at the University of Texas. And it's kind of what I knew. So when I got to the Dolphins, I got here to do equipment and working with Joe and Charlie and just some of the details that they instilled on me in terms of being in the locker room and preparing and practice. So with doing that, it gave me the experience to see how a locker room was built and see those different personalities and the leadership, but it also gave me the opportunity to be on the practice field. And so you get to see practice every day and you get to see those personalities and the coaches as well. So I feel like I learned a lot from that standpoint. And once we finished that 2009 season, after the year was over, Jeff Ireland and Coach Parcells were here and they gave me some projects in terms of watching film and really just kind of taught me how to use the remote. So my second year, I worked in operations, which was great because it got me out of the locker room. And a lot of times you become a friend to those guys in the locker room. And so that second year in operations, I was able to really kind of get away, do a lot of the jobs that people didn't want to do. And by year three, I started into scouting and dove right in.
So what led you to that position? Like, how did you know you wanted to get into specific football scouting from that point?
Well, so my third year, I started doing the college scouting coordinator stuff. So I benefited from that because I was kind of mission control. All of the reports that came through, I would read. And whether it was background, whether it was player eval. So that allowed me the opportunity to develop a style of how I wanted to write evaluations and what's easy to read. And so I started off doing that, and you could see the travel schedules of all the scouts. And the more I got ingrained in it, the more I felt that I wanted to be on the road. I wanted to be the guy who knew the player the best and really try to figure them out as a person, as a player, and that way try to help build this team because I wanted to have a footprint on the team.
So when you talk about writing reports and trying to find your voice within that, what does that look like in terms of how it differs compared to how you would write an email or a press release, an AP style? Like, I know that doesn't fit your criteria, but it seems like that's a different skill set than other styles of writing. How would you describe to a fan base what that's like compared to other types of writing?
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially just trying to paint the picture of a player. So, I mean, if you were to close your eyes and you were to read your report, you're essentially trying to detail what a player looks like to the GM who maybe hasn't seen the player. And sometimes less is more. So sometimes the more descriptive and some of the analogies and some of the player comps that can give a better picture. But we always talk about writing snap to whistle. So the very beginning of a play, pre-snap, all the way to the end of the play, and just trying to describe who he is.
What's your experience been like in the SEC or just that region in general?
Oh man, I mean, being in the Southeast, the game day atmosphere. I mean, they talk about it means more, and you feel it, and so that's the fun part. I would say there are players everywhere, but in terms of doing the Southeast and some of the players that have come out of there, I don't take that lightly, and I think it's really important as much as the background and it's very important to get the background right, but just that's going to lead us to making good decisions on the player too.
Absolutely. I want to go ahead and close with this here because Sully has talked a lot about the process as collaboration with boundaries and trust. I'm curious how you would describe the collaboration with the rest of the department in this pre-draft process in 2026.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome. I mean, I got to know Sully a little bit just when he was on the road and just some crossover and things like that. And I would just say his inclusion of everyone in the process, whether it's pro, college. I mean, he wants to know your opinion, and he'll be the first to tell you that we may not get it right all the time, but if we do have a differing opinion, then that's important too. It's an important part to consider, and he is a great listener. He listens to everything. He takes all the opinions in, and just he's going to make the ultimate decision, but anything that I can provide and help him with that, I mean, that's what we're here to do.
As I say in my podcast, draft season is 365 days a year.
No doubt.
No doubt about that. Chase Leshin, Dolphins senior scout. Appreciate your time today, man. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And today we're diving in with college scout Grant Wallace. Grant, thanks for your time today, man, and coming back to our studio back here.
Yeah, no problem. It's a cool environment.
We've been kicking off these chats by just kind of talking about your background, your path to the NFL, and it's so cool, man, because like some of the paths are similar in terms of working your way from the bottom all the way up into these high-level positions, but there's always a unique, circuitous nature to these routes. So if you could just take us through, how you got here, what you do now, and just kind of everything in between there for your career.
Yeah, my path's pretty easy compared to maybe some of the other stories you've heard. I started here as an intern back in 2015. I came straight out of college, had no work experience prior, so didn't know anything about the business or working in an NFL building besides just playing in college. So came in here as an intern, worked my way up through a scouting assistant, and have been a college scout in the Midwest for the last 8 years or so. So it's been a pretty cool path. I grew up around the game. My dad worked for the Rams. I'm on the business side, so I've been around football, and I always knew I wanted to work in football. But yeah, this is my only work experience with the Miami Dolphins.
So you kind of talked about your college career there a little bit. You kind of downplayed it, which I appreciate the humbleness here, but I'll go ahead and brag for you. 4th most receptions and receiving yards in school history, and led the FCS in receiving yards per game your senior year there at Yale. I have to imagine you kind of draw upon that playing experience here in your career as a scout.
Yeah, I think for what we do as scouts and finding players and evaluating talent, like there's some good kind of feedback you can get just from your playing days as far as what you look for in a player, what ultimately you want to try to find and all that stuff, and then how they fit in the locker room and stuff like that. So there is some experience and some value in that. But at the same time, like you learn stuff new every single day in scouting. And so you try not to lean too much on your playing experiences, and especially playing at Yale. You weren't around a bunch of NFL players there, so it's a lot different being in the Miami Dolphins locker room compared to a Yale football locker room.
I've heard that reference a lot about guys that have had playing careers. We've had a few of the guys on the show so far here that were part of playing at the college or NFL level, and they've mentioned that locker room environment as something that stands out to them. Can you kind of unpeel that for us a little more here in terms of the value of being around players, and like you mentioned, not NFL guys, but it was a football locker room, the value of that in terms of taking that over to doing background and detail on guys in the scouting process?
Yeah, I think it's just helpful to understand what it was like to be in a college locker room. And for me, I'm still relatively young, so I still remember that pretty well. And so you understand kind of the trials and the distractions that those guys kind of go through in their college lives. It's a little different than being in the NFL because you do have to deal with school. And now, especially with the NIL and the transfer portal and guys moving around, there's a lot of different things that athletes and honestly, like kids have to deal with that you don't have to necessarily deal with at the NFL level. And so you try to take that into consideration. And obviously college football in particular has changed a lot since I was in college, but there are still things that you can take from there as far as just like how guys relate to teammates, how they manage distractions and stuff like that. That's really valuable for us to kind of at least understand a little more so than if you didn't play.
It makes perfect sense. And you work in the Midwest region right
Yeah.
now. So I have a couple of questions about that. But first, it's such a blue blood area of the country in terms of college football with major programs that produce big time NFL talent. Tell us what life is like working in the Midwest region as a scout for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's a really good region. You got a lot of good programs there, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the Illinois, the Iowa, like a bunch of good programs that have had a lot of success. So it's a really good area as far as just kind of scouring a big chunk of area. It's obviously geographically very big. And you got a lot of small schools there too. There's a lot of FCS football there that's had a lot of success. So we kind of scour the whole kind of area to make sure we find talent there, because you don't want anything to kind of slip through the cracks or anything like that. But I've always enjoyed my time there. I'm from the Midwest originally, so it's always good to be there.
That sounds like it kind of differs from like a national scout would, or a director, right? Because they're trying to get a bigger scope. But it sounds like for you guys, it's a little more focused centrally on that that aspect of it. And it sounds like would you go through 3-4 games of a guy to kind of get a good feel for him?
Yeah, I mean, we're for an area for his final year of college football, like I try to watch almost his full season, but at least 9 games on the player, just to make sure that I have a full understanding of how he did throughout the year, and also kind of how it evolves throughout the year. Maybe he didn't have a great year to start, didn't have a great start to the season, but ended well. And you kind of want to be able to track that throughout that. So you never know how our GM or our head coach is going to watch the film. So you just want to make sure you're on top of that.
How do you balance that in terms of like, because college careers, like I always say in this sport, like, the trajectory is not linear, right? Guys have ups and downs. How do you balance a guy that maybe had a great freshman year versus a down year as a sophomore, then maybe he peaks again? Like, how do you kind of encompass the entire career to get the final report on a guy?
Yeah, that's what makes it tough, because you never know exactly what the different circumstances are that lead to it. So that's why it's really important for us to be around these programs and have kind of the context around their backgrounds, how the teams were doing, all that stuff, which was, that's very helpful for us. But yeah, it's very difficult. I try to make sure that you try to take the last year's film most importantly, because that's what they're going to come into the NFL with. And you got to understand that guys develop on different tracks. And maybe somebody had success early on and that got to their head, or maybe they didn't have success early on and that made them work harder. So you just got to understand their story, and every player is different. So you don't want to paint too broad a brush and kind of go to like general consensus. More just like drill down on each individual player and make sure you kind of understand that person.
Do you still watch the tape at the school? I know that's how it used to be, where you would go to like, an example I want to throw out, like Eastern Oregon University, right? You go there, they have the tape that you have to access there. Then you talk to the player you see in practice. Is it still that way, or is it more streamlined because of advances?
It has the ability to be more streamlined, but I think for what we like to do is I like to be there to watch the film in person at the school, just so I can be around. Maybe you bump into somebody and you have a 5-minute conversation with somebody you've never met before, and that's always valuable for us. So I like to be there and not try to rush out and get on with my day, and try to be there and watch the film, because I think that's valuable. It also helps you focus a little more, just because you're there and you got to be efficient with your time, so you're not taking up too much time from people.
There's always value in being present. Man, I could talk to you for 2 hours, but we're going to get you out of here right now. Grant Wallace, college scout for your Miami Dolphins. Grant, appreciate your time today, man. Thank you. My guest today is Nate Trott, national scout. Nate, how you doing, man? Welcome back to our world back here, man.
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here, back in Miami.
So, you mentioned being back in Miami. I assume you spent a lot of time out on the road. And did you just get back recently, or like what's your schedule been like the last couple of weeks?
I did, yeah. So we did pro days. So I went to about 9 of them across the country. So start off in Wyoming, went all the way to Louisiana. So then got back here a couple days ago and getting ready to go.
You probably see some pretty small towns in a lot of parts of this country in this job.
Absolutely. Wyoming, it was snowing, and Louisiana, it was 90 degrees and humid. So very different climates.
So your journey has taken you obviously across the country, but all across the National Football League. 4 years here in Miami, 2 decades in the NFL, beginning as a training camp intern in Cleveland. I love these stories, man. I just want to kind of talk to you about the start of your journey and what took you towards football, and when you got into the league, when you realized this is what I want to do, man.
Absolutely. So I started with the Browns, like you said. It was a summer internship. I was exhausting an internship requirement for my university. I went to Elon. And so I started there, and I did, a couple jobs in terms of working with the coaching staff, the equipment room. So that taught me about hard work, attention to detail, just about all the little things that a franchise, all the moving parts within a franchise.
And it seems like every person I've talked to in this chair so far has had a fork in the road at some point where they had to make the decision between possibly coaching or scouting. Was that a similar experience for you?
So my father, longtime coach in the NFL and in college, big mentor of mine, big inspiration. I think being a coach's son, it's an experience, all in itself. I got to be around a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches. I got to hear stories from my father about the scouts he was around, the players, like Lawrence Taylor was one of them. And I also just got to observe. Like he is a guy that never really pushed me to do things, but he allowed me to watch. And I think that allowed me to see how he operated and how he treated his players, how he treated people around the building, hard work.
And that kind of continues throughout the scouting process, or I guess the scouting career, because you go from, you talked about going from pro to college. What's the difference when it comes to a pro scout versus a college scout? If you can just kind of give us the basics there.
Absolutely. I think pro scouting, you're scouting other pro teams. It's more, apples to apples. I think college, you're projecting. Sometimes you're going into D3 schools, D2, 1AA, trying to project them to the league. So I like to predict the future. I reference the past, right? So there's a lot of factors you gotta put in that. It's personality, it's work ethic. It's like, what's his DNA?
What do those discussions look like when you guys do convene and come back? You have agreements, you have disagreements, you have, trying to break ties on players. Like, what does the collaboration process look like when you guys all get back together, and how do those discussions kind of play out?
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, it's about respect. So we all respect each other. We all respect the work that we've all put in. And I think Sully and Kyle have just created a great environment for us to feel like we can be open and express our opinions.
Yeah, I've been hearing that. That's been a pretty common theme across these interviews. Last one for you here. The draft is one of my favorite times of year as a person that fancies himself as an amateur scout. It's like the best part of the calendar in football for me. But what's your favorite part of the entire draft process? Is there a moment that stands out above the rest to you?
I think it's after the draft. I think it's when you see players that you've scouted have success on the field, whatever team that is. And I just like to follow them throughout their career and see them progress as players, but also as people.
Yeah, I love those stories, man. He is Nate Trott, national scout for your Miami Dolphins. Appreciate your time today, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.